Hello guys, DJ Bagpuss here and welcome back to Bagpuss Uncut. And yes, this is not a channel update, it's a little bit of a different video. Now today we're going to be talking about Bird Box, and I'm going to be giving you guys the reason why Bird Box has been so successful. And we're going to be talking lots and different kind of bits and pieces about Bird Box, so just sit back, relax, get comfortable, because this is DJ Bagpuss's Bird Box discussion. Now I did this in the summer when I spoke about the greatest horror movie ever made, and I was going to edit this video in the way that I edited that Bagpuss Uncut video in the summer, and I was going to get kind of snippets of Bird Box. I was going to get lots of, you know, lovely little graphics, you know, text, images. We're going to edit in kind of a documentary kind of style, and then I realised I probably would just get a copyright claim. A, I would get a copyright claim, B, I don't have the time to do that, so I just thought I'll do what I do best. I'll sit you guys down, I'll turn on the camera, and I'll just talk. So I'm going to be kind of at the end of the video giving you the main reason as to why I think Bird Box has been such an amazing kind of, you know, smash hit success over the summer. The real reason why Bird Box has been so successful. But I'm going to kind of be giving you guys my thoughts and feelings to what I thought about Bird Box, what I think about its success both on screen and off screen, and then ultimately giving you the main reason as to why I think Bird Box was so successful. And I do just want to stress that this is going to be a spoiler video. I'm going to be ruining the ending of Bird Box. I'm going to be talking about Bird Box at length, and I'm going to be explaining key parts of the film. So if you are yet to see Bird Box, go on to Netflix. If you haven't got Netflix, download Netflix. You get 30 days free if you haven't ever used it before. Watch Bird Box and then come back and watch this video. And I really do stress that I'm about to ruin the Bird Box film if you haven't seen it already. Good? Everyone who is still here has already seen Bird Box. Great, we begin. So basically, Bird Box for me was a really interesting concept. You know, it's one of those which I think the more you think about it, the more you realise just how clever and just how good the movie was. I'll come to kind of my overall kind of, you know, what I thought about the movie in just a moment. But basically the premise of Bird Box simply is that there are these mysterious creatures and forces, whether they're creatures, whether they're forces, it remains to be seen. But basically there are these mysterious creatures or forces that we don't see. We never see them. We see kind of drawings of them throughout the movie, but we don't actually ever see these creatures on screen. But when our characters see these creatures or forces, it kind of unreveals their biggest fear, and they end up killing themselves, so they commit suicide essentially. And you've got kind of people committing suicide on a mass kind of scale. So, you know, you've almost got an apocalyptic end of the world. You know, you go outside, you see these creatures, it reveals your greatest fear, and then it kills you. And you've got that happening, you know, to thousands upon thousands of people. You know, people are starting going, you know, absolutely crazy. You know, you've kind of got, you know, if the world was coming to an end and you kind of had to fend for yourself and survive, it's got that kind of manner in it, but you've got people just dropping like absolute flies, you know, left, right and centre. And then we kind of have these group of characters that through, you know, one circumstance or another come together. And you know what was also really interesting is that these mysterious forces and creatures can't get into the inside. So if you're in the four walls of your own home, or if you're in an inside space that blocks out the outside world, you're safe, you know, throughout Bird Box. But obviously you need food, you need resources, you need supplies. And where are you going to get food, resources and supplies? You're going to get it outside. So the way that our characters have to survive in regards of getting the food, resources, supplies that they need to go outside. So they blindfold themselves while they're going out and about, which is, you know, as sensible as it's going to get. We follow many characters, but the main protagonist is Sandra Bullock's character. She plays Mallory, and she's got boy and girl, two children, one boy, one girl, and they're literally called boy and girl. And at the start of Bird Box, we see her travelling down a really dangerous and intense river, and then we kind of find out through flashbacks how Mallory, boy and girl, got to that situation. We find out about everybody that she was connected and how the kind of apocalyptic Bird Box kind of came about. So it's a story about survival, it's a story about suicide, and then ultimately it's about, you know, Mallory, boy and girl getting that redemption by getting to the end of the river, which they do at the end of the movie. So, you know, what I think Bird Box did is that it was really interesting because it kind of, it had lots of different pieces, and you can read it in a number of different ways. You can read it as kind of a straight post-apocalyptic horror thriller that we've seen plenty times before. You know, the end of the world, people coming together, people having to survive, that kind of survival instinct that we all have, you know, that fight or that flight. You know, it could be a story based about that. It could be a story based on suicide, mental health and depression, because to me, you know, with past experience about being around people that have had mental health, I've never ever kind of been around, you know, anyone that has committed suicide, but I know a lot about that from people committing suicide through kind of, you know, different circumstances and kind of the job that I do on a day-to-day basis. You know, we sometimes only see mental health, suicide, depression, you know, and we only see it when somebody actually kills themselves. I'm not saying that that is, you know, for every single kind of occasion. I'm kind of just generalising it. But sometimes, you know, mental health can only be seen through extreme action. The most extreme action is killing yourself. So it could be a message that we only see mental health, depression and suicide when it actually, you know, is staring us in the face, when we've actually seen someone, you know, get to that point where they've committed suicide and ended their own life. You could look at it as a secret message for mental health. You could see it as a kind of way of how we are so kind of fixated on social media, how, you know, all we care about is ourselves, our phones and what we're doing. We love sharing loads and, you know, bits and pieces. So, you know, by sharing that, it kind of, you know, means that we're oblivious to the world. When you've got a blindfold on, you're oblivious to the world. You could read that as a hidden message. And you could also read it about family, friends, how people come together and how, you know, even in the darkest moments of life, we all have that kind of thing in us that we will come together and be with, you know, a group of total strangers just because we have to survive, essentially. So you could kind of read it in many different ways, and I like movies that kind of get me thinking into many different areas. I thought overall the movie was very, very good. I thought it was a very, very clever piece of work. I thought, you know, from, you know, what we've seen before, you know, in terms of the horror genre, the thriller genre, you know, I thought it was one of those movies that was unique. You know, its premise was unique. It was something that I haven't really thought about, and even though that kind of, you know, idea of, you know, people committing suicide, you know, just randomly has been done in horror cinema before, but in the way that Bird Box executed it, you know, it was a very unique way. Now, actually, it's based on a novel of, you know, 2014. You know, it's been adapted from a novel into a screenplay. So, you know, the idea has been there for like the last 4, 5, you know, 6 years really. But, you know, I would have given the movie out of 5. I wouldn't have given it all 5 stars. I would have given it about a 4, because even though I enjoyed the movie, I thought it was a clever concept, and I thought the overall movie was really good, and I'm interested in the movie, obviously that's why I'm doing a video on it, but I felt that the timing of the movie, the pacing of the movie was not as good as it could have been. You know, there were moments that caught me at the edge of my seat. There were moments that I was kind of, you know, so engrossed in the movie, you know, nail-biting moments, intense moments, creepy moments. I didn't find the movie scary, although I'm a hardcore horror fan, so it takes a lot to scare me, but there were certainly moments based on personal stuff that's happened in my life that really did kind of creep me out. But I just felt that there were moments that were kind of full-blooded horror, edge-of-your-seat action moments, intense moments, but then we had some ridiculously slow moments where we've just got characters talking to each other because nobody really knew what they needed to do. You know, they had kind of horror, they had intense stuff, they had horrible stuff, and then we kind of got to halfway through the movie and they thought, we've got to fill it with something, let's just have 2 characters talking. I know it's for all kind of, you know, plot development, and plot development is important, but those were the moments that kind of steered me away from the movie. And, you know, that happened on a multiple number of occasions, and that is not a good look to have. You know, a movie needs to keep me engrossed throughout all of the 2 hours, and there was probably, you know, a good 3/4 of it that kind of slowed it right down, really. I did think there were some real standout moments. I thought, you know, the death scenes, there were some real kind of creepy death scenes in the movie. The most creepiest moments for me was when Sarah Paulson's character is possessed. You know, and she's driving the car, and you know, so you've got Jessica and Mallory in the car. You know, Jessica is driving the car, she sees the creature, and she just becomes possessed. You know, so she crashes the car, she gets out of the car, and then she jumps in front of a truck and just kills herself. The other moment is when one of the characters, I think it's, I can't remember their name, but it's one of the characters that helps Mallory when she's on the floor and comes out of the house that Mallory ends up, you know, staying in. And what she does is that she thinks she sees her mother, who's obviously passed away, and kind of, you know, sees a burning car and just sits in the burning car and burns herself alive. I thought that was really, really creepy. And when Gary attacks the house later on during the movie, that whole kind of, you know, segment from when they are dancing to I Say a Little Prayer for You, to when Mallory and Olympia give birth to the, you know, boy and girl respectively, and then when Gary goes absolutely crazy and starts just attacking and killing everybody in the house, I thought that was a really, really good kind of freaky moment. And even the ending when it's Mallory, boy and girl in the forest and they're trying to get to the sanctuary. I even thought the moments where the forces were trying to kind of haunt Mallory and force her into not just her but boy and girl taking off their blindfold. I did think that was a good moment, but I certainly just thought the ending kind of had a little bit of a lacklustre feel to me. But the actual ending of when Mallory, boy and girl go to the blind school, so you know it's you know, and what was interesting is that blind people and kind of people with mental health weren't affected by it. Obviously blind because they can't see the outside world, but mental kind of people were able to kind of cause problems and see into the outside world, and they were almost like they were working with the forces. Another kind of hidden message that people with mental health issues are kind of in their own world at times. The mental health problems that they're suffering makes them kind of, you know, be in their own little world, and they were kind of isolated and away from the normal people that were being affected when they saw these invisible creatures. But, you know, the kind of, the school for the blind, it was, you know, it was one of those endings which kind of, you know, Mallory, boy and girl had been through so much, they'd gone through so much throughout the film. It was nice to give them a little bit of, you know, hope and kind of, you know, give them that moment where they can say, yeah, there is a chance for us, there's a chance for us that we can actually, you know, survive, and, you know, we may have a future. Now, you know, that is left solely to our imaginations, because we don't know how long Mallory, boy and girl are in that, you know, school for the blind. It's blocked out. So, you know, the forces are blocked out from that world, and they have got plenty of food, resources and supplies. Obviously, that's not going to last forever. And, you know, there may be a chance that the forces would become smart enough to actually break into, you know, kind of safe and secure rooms. And if that happens, it's game over, because there wasn't just blind people there. There were people that were kind of, you know, managed to survive, get into that place, and the blind people were helping the non-blind people in creating, you know, a new utopian place. So, you know, that ending is very different to the novel. You know, in the novel, it's a very dark ending. You know, people are deliberately blinding themselves. There is no hope. There is no security. And the director of the movie, Suzanne Bier, wanted to give the audience a bit of an uplift. You know, they'd gone through so much throughout the movie that they wanted to get to a point where they gave the audience a little bit of hope and reassurance that, yeah, Mallory, boy and girl are going to be okay. Excuse me, I certainly understand why they did that, because, you know, with horror cinema, what is really, really kind of, you know, the norm is that you have the ability in a horror movie to kill everybody off apart from one character and get away with it. You know, we're going to a movie, particularly a horror movie, to either see people get possessed, be haunted, or be killed. You know, we're not going there for anything else. And the best horror movies are the ones that strip that mythology away and make you, you know, really care about the characters and really care about them and wanting that uplift. You know, American Horror Story, the TV show, does that really well. You know, it's a horror kind of television show that takes place over 12 weeks. It takes place in your sitting room, that you do start to fall in love with the characters. You develop, you know, a connection with the characters, that you don't want to see every single character, you know, be killed off. You want to see these characters survive, pull through, and have a little bit of an uplift and acceptance. And I think, you know, Bird Box is the same. I think you do, you know, believe in the characters. I think you do fall in love with them. I do think you get connected. You know, Mallory is, you know, that character that you're rooting for throughout the movie. So, you know, I think Bird Box does a good job of getting you kind of, you know, engrossed into the characters and wanting them to do well. But, you know, in horror cinema, you have that ability where you've got, you know, a large portion of your audience that really don't care about what happens to these set characters. So, you know, apart from the slow parts of the movie and the overall pacing of the movie being slightly off, overall, the plot, I think, was very, very clever. I thought the performances were great. I thought Sandra Bullock, I mean, she's just an amazing actress, and it really does trigger me when people say, oh, that Bird Box girl. I mean, you know, this is Sandra Bullock. Do you know what she's been in? You know, Speed, Gravity, The Heat, Bird Box. You know, that is just to name a few. I could, you know, give you a list of 20 movies that she's been in. She's not just the Bird Box lady, but you can see that she enjoyed herself. She gives everything. I mean, she even injured herself on the movie when she was blindfolded. You know, she gave everything, and she was kind of a huge part in getting this movie. I think she was executive producer. You know, she was absolutely kind of at the forefront of trying to get the best out of this project. I thought Sarah Paulson, you know, she's brilliant in American Horror Story. She's a wonderful actress, and, you know, she gives as good as she gets in this movie. It's quite a short kind of movie part that she gets. She doesn't last long, but she was brilliant. I thought Danielle McDonald, who played Olympia. I thought Tom Hollander, who I'd recently seen in Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought he was really good as a demented Gary. And overall, I thought the performances were good. I thought it was, you know, a strong, solid cast. I thought the plot was very, very enjoyable, and, you know, it was one of those movies where the more you think about it, the more you realise just how much you enjoyed the movie. So, you know, on screen, the movie works for the most part. You know, it's a 4-star, you know, intelligent drama, horror, thriller, and, you know, it has a strong kind of setup. You know, it does lose itself slightly in the middle. It does have a little bit of a lacklustre ending, but I enjoyed the uplifting ending. And that was what it did on screen. But off screen, it was really interesting because Bird Box was released into cinemas at the beginning of December. I think around December 13th in the USA. I don't even think it got a UK cinema release. I think it just, you know, went straight to, you know, the streaming service of Netflix on December 23rd. But the movie on Rotten Tomatoes has got a 64, it's got a 51 on Metrolit, and it's got a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. So it's average, you know, it's average. And critics absolutely slammed Bird Box, and it financially flopped in the cinemas. In the USA, it flopped. You know, it got taken out of cinemas because it did so poor. And then what happened is that it went to Netflix on December 21st, and Netflix as a company are absolutely brilliant in how they advertise, because they bring a hype around. You know, they are really, really good at bringing hype and bringing, you know, a surge of their audience into watching one thing. It's a Netflix original. You know, there were so many teasers, and they got people talking about the movie. And that's what you want. You want people talking about it. You want to, you know, when you go into work, when you go into school, you know, when everybody's talking about one movie, you know, you think, right, tonight when I get home, I'm going onto Netflix and I'm watching Bird Box. And, you know, to release it over a holiday season, when, you know, a large proportion of the audience are going to be on Netflix because they've got time off from school, from college, from work, you know, it's a great kind of, you know, place to throw a film into the Netflix catalogue. And boy, did it, you know, create absolute fire. I mean, you know, Netflix are not ones to release their records and, you know, how successful they've been. But, you know, according to what Netflix said, and, you know, I'm still kind of on the fence of whether this is true or not, but in the first 7 days of Bird Box's release, Netflix got 45 million accounts watching Bird Box. Now, that doesn't take into account whether the 45 million accounts watched Bird Box in its entirety, if they only watched 2 seconds, 10 seconds, you know, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. It doesn't give kind of the specific take. It's just that they say 45 million accounts clicked onto Bird Box and watched it over the first 7 days, which is unbelievable. Could you imagine if 45 million people, you know, went to the cinema? Do you know how many people it is? I mean, obviously that would be quite impossible because a cinema seat can only hold probably about 100 people. But, you know, that is incredible. And you kind of took Bird Box from kind of a, you know, cinema movie that Netflix had presented that had flopped in the cinemas. The critics were all over it, and kind of, you know, when I say all over it, they're all over it in a very negative way. And then they put it on Netflix, and it kind of just exploded. You know, that shows that, you know, this kind of new wave of how, you know, what I'm doing right now, speaking about it on social media, people posting their thoughts to blogs, to vlogs, you know, posting it on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, Snapchat. We've got so many social media places which people can kind of, you know, portray their thoughts and feelings. The conversation starts to galvanise momentum. You've got, you know, millions of people talking about one film. You know, it generates a buzz, and it's all over Netflix. You know, over the holiday season, you click on Netflix, it's the first thing people see. You know, they read the synopsis, they see a bit of the trailer, they think, oh, that looks interesting, and bam, you've been sucked into it. Now, whether 45 million people is accurate, we're never ever going to know that. But, you know, Bird Box certainly has created, you know, a storm, a surge. It's got people talking about the movie, and it is kind of, you know, a refreshing 2018 movie. But this is the main reason, in my opinion, why Bird Box has been so successful. And the reason why Bird Box has been so successful is Netflix. And when I mean Netflix, I mean their marketing, their advertising, the way that they kind of peer pressure their audience into watching it. You know, Netflix have transformed Bird Box into a financially kind of, you know, floppable cinema movie into a sensational piece of work. You know, and Netflix are responsible for that, you know, because, you know, if it wasn't on Netflix, people wouldn't be watching it, you know, millions of people wouldn't be watching it. People still would be watching it, of course they would be still watching it, but you wouldn't get the mass amount of people that are watching it, because Netflix is, you know, the largest streaming service in the world. You know, if they've got 45 million accounts watching it, how many accounts have they got generally? Because that's not the entire Netflix audience, there's even more out there. And I think it shows that in the next kind of, you know, 5-10 years, you know, you're not going to get cinemas anymore. You're not going to get, you know, that joy of going to a cinema, going to the big screen and watching it. Because, you know, now in today's current climate, going to the cinema is so expensive. A, it's too expensive. B, you know, the food is so expensive. You know, expensive ticket prices, expensive food. Going out in, you know, weather when you can just sit in the comfort of your home, snuggle up to the movie. I mean, I was in bed with a cup of tea, bit of cereal, watching Bird Box on a Monday night. I kind of made it, you know, my intention that even though people were talking about, you know, the film to me, I didn't want to know about it. I wanted to go in with an open mind. I wanted to go in not knowing anything about it. And even though probably people had told me about the movie, by the time I actually got round to watching it, which I watched it on Monday, January 7th, so this time last Monday, you know, I'd probably forgotten what they actually told me. So, you know, as I said, Netflix are the main reason why Bird Box has been so successful. But in addition to that, it's a unique piece of work. It is unique. It's got that unique feel. It's got that unique factor. And it's one of those movies that, you know, will stay in my memory. And one of those rare occasions where, you know, I finished watching it and thought, yeah, that was alright, that was not too bad, that was actually quite good. And the more I think about it, the more I really enjoy it. I mean, the soundtrack to the movie is incredible. The casting is great, the plot is great, the death scenes are really, really creepy and really, really strong. You know, you take away the kind of pacing problems and you've got an incredible movie. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, in kind of 6-7 months' time, the final record of how many people actually watched the film. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, and I want to hear your thoughts, feelings, and kind of, you know, do you think Bird Box is a movie about mental health? Do you think it's a post-apocalyptic, you know, horror movie? Do you think it's a survival movie? Do you think Netflix are the main reason why Bird Box has been so successful? Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment section below. Please make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and check out my great content as well. A little bit of a different video for you today, and the support that you're still showing to the channel means the absolute world to me. This is DJ Bagpuss signing out. Take care, and I shall see you all later. Take care, and I shall see you all very, very, very soon. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.